Let's talk a little bit about WARNO and how I like to play RTS games. I play RTS games kind of like a scientist. I like to explore what is possible. I like to find new and interesting strategies. I want to see what kind of strategies work and which ones doesn't. And so I like to play around with things that are often dismissed by other people. And I like to theory craft what is possible with this deck or faction or division. Because, limitations breed creativity. And I like to be creative in strategy games. And so that means I'll often look for what is the weakest faction? What is the faction that nobody plays? And I like to pick that one up and see if there's like any hidden gems or hidden strategies that people haven't found out about yet. And so I'm pretty sure that the weakest faction in WARNO right now is probably 2nd Infantry Division, or it's Territorial Commando Sud, or SUD, or whatever. And so I take a look at the deck and I'm like, what's good about this? At first glance, there's not much redeeming about this deck. You have some cheap fire support, but that's not really going to win you the game. You have these cheap tanks, but you're not going to defeat any medium tanks, right? This is not enough penetration to kill like a 200-point tank. And this is not enough armor to withstand some of the weaker ATGMs. So you'll die in one hit, pretty much, with this thing. The Iltis. This is actually kind of amazing. It is very cheap for what is essentially a mobile Milan unit, because this is identical to, if you look at a normal Milan. It has normal optics. It has good stealth. It has normal optics. And this is just a very heavily discounted Milan for some reason. So this thing is amazing. The same goes for this thing. It is also just a very heavily discounted Milan that moves very fast. And the only weakness with this thing is that it cannot enter a building. So I don't know if they're gonna nerf this, but you get a lot of these. If I take a look at my deck here real quick, you'll see that you can get quite a lot. You can get 14 of these at almost maximum veterancy. And that is just perfect for open maps and sneaking behind enemy lines. You can just probe, and if it dies, it dies. If it gets through, it gets through. And then you can snipe any sort of unit. And it's really good defensively because this will easily be able to shoot at anything that doesn't have good optics. And so there's another good thing about this deck, which I don't think people really think about, is you get a lot of good infantry and fast helicopters. And if you think I'm proposing cancer, you are correct, because you also get a lot of these things. You get 9 Gazelle cannons, which is pretty amazing by its own. Your plane tab is not terrible either. Unlike 2nd Infantry, your planes can actually pull something off. This is a passable helo sniper. It's also good for soaking shots from the enemy. And the ECM is pretty good. So you can basically use this to soak a lot of, AA from the ground, or you can soak incoming missiles. If you dive headfirst into an enemy plane, then you have a pretty good chance of even taking it out. And then there's this thing. You don't get a lot of ammunition, but it's not a terrible plane, all things considered. The speed is great. You get a bunch of cluster planes to deal with heavy tanks, which you can't deal with otherwise, unless you're in close quarters, because you get pretty amazing aeromobiles with 21 AP. I mean, this is just steel right here. And then you have the green berets. Well, not as amazing as the aeromobiles, kinda, but you get a lot of AT shots. And so the way to play this deck, I think, the best way, is to do something like this. Now the days are over where you can simply just helo rush the enemy spawn zone and kill all his CVs. But this strategy does have some merits when played straight, right? It's not really any gimmicks to it, you just use helicopters to insert infantry wherever you need them. And just put them in awkward positions, put them in, ambush spots, and put them in buildings you normally would want to get to. This is essentially just a fast transport, right? And because the opponent is not going to suspect this many helicopters, and because there's limited amount of ammunition on his anti-air, I mean, sure, my helicopters will die and he will resupply, but now I know a lot of information about where does he have AA, which is the middle here, where he doesn't have AA, which is up on the sides here. I also know that he doesn't cover his flanks here, so I'm just going to get these guys in, right? And I also know that this is the location of his air. This is the location of his anti-air, which means that anything up to this point will be safe for me to land at. So this guy got in, this guy got in, this Milan here got in, this guy didn't get in, but these guys will get in. This guy survived somehow. Right, so right now what I'm trying to do is just win the air game, because what he did is buy a lot of planes to deal with the fact that I have a lot of transport helicopters. And so as long as I can deal with those planes, it will be exceedingly easy for me to just continue and do aerial inserts. These F4Fs are also quite good at sniping infantry and light vehicles. Here you can see the ECM at work, just dodging all that. Trying to sell these, but unfortunately they're not going to have enough fuel to make it back. Right. Not a good trade, but at least I forced him to get this type of unit. Once again, the ECM just makes the plane refuse to die. And now I can snipe helicopters with my F4Fs. In the meantime, I'm just trying to create a very annoying defensive line. Just inserting Milans, inserting more aeromobiles. Right, now he has to deal with this, and because he's playing 79, his units are all very expensive, and so he can't be everywhere at once. He can't recon everywhere at once, and so he doesn't know how many units I have here. He doesn't know how many units I have Here, all he knows is that I inserted units in his backline. Now he has to spend over 100 points just to figure out what I have. And this guy who survived, obviously later he'll snipe this BRDM. So this tactic is kind of cancerous. I'm not super sure what I would do to beat it myself. It's extremely annoying. But keep in mind, this is supposedly one of the worst decks in the game. Nice snipe on this guy. Maybe there is a very efficient way of dealing with this. Obviously, it would be easier if he had a lot of cheaper units, but that's not really his deck's strong suit. Just driving away with this supply truck that I snagged. So now that I have this zone, I'm just gonna try and bring a lot of infantry, just pump a lot of infantry into this town here. And here they come, the Red Eyes. Oh no, you killed a Red Eye. Obviously, the Red Eyes can't hit. Of course they can't hit it. And off he goes. He makes it out alive. He's getting a lot of anti-air, but most of my air is actually just a response to his air, which is a response to my transport helicopters. Of course, I'm just inserting more and more infantry in the back line. Not much you can do about it. Let's take a look at another game. And so in this game you can see there's a lot of open ground to cover. And so this allows the Milan Jeeps to really shine, right? Look at all these guys. All at elite, right? Okay, so I can't see the updated stat, but you know, it's gonna be over 50%. Supplement with the helicopter insertion cheese. Get some cannons. Just soak shots. Because I know what deck he's playing. And he is playing second infantry, which is the second, or in my opinion, the actual worst deck in the game. And the reason is I already know that my air tab is stronger than his air tab. I also know that his anti-air tab is going to be rapiers for the most part. There's not going to be any SPAAG. There's not going to be high capacity anti-air. And so if he shoots down my cannons, he's gonna be out of ammo and he'll need to resupply. And so this becomes a very safe insertion. And here you have the FRFs doubling as ground attackers. Snipes the incoming plane. this one gets through. Now I know where his anti-air is. And also, if he shoots at my Pumas, then the rapier is also going to not kill the Puma with one shot. Which means shooting at the Puma is also acceptable. And he's going to have to invest a lot of points into anti-air in order to deal with all these helicopters. Once again, F4Fs sniping ground units. Great infantry killers. And he flies straight over his rapiers, which are out of ammo. This guy makes it in. Puma's going back, getting sold. He gets this guy in my backline. Very good. But you know, so you can see this type of strategy is kind of viable for this deck, and that means there's not, you know, that means this isn't like a super terrible deck. As long as I can keep this up. Now this aero mobile gets in, of course. I'm going to prevent the sale of these two trucks. And so already this guy has pretty much made back his money. This Iltis Milan in the back line. Does he already have 2 kills? I'm trying to backcap my zones, but of course this guy's gonna die. RIP. See, this is what I'm talking about. I already know that the Phantom F3s, they're garbage. And so I know he can't do anything to my air title. And this is part of why I think that 2nd Infantry is the weakest division right now. Boom. F4F to the rescue. Phantom F3. It can't even kill my Alpha Jet. How sad is that? And because I have this aero mobile on the back line, I know exactly where this rover is coming in. And of course, I know he's completely out of anti-air, and so I can simply swarm him with Gazelle cannons. And what's he gonna do about it? There's nothing he can do about it. Yeah, I'm attacking this and he knows. Well, well. And so if you play like complete cancer, TKS is not the worst deck in the game.